G'day and welcome to another episode of Spectrum Uncensored. Today I have with me Caelen from the northern suburbs of Brisbane. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
So, do you just want to tell me a little bit about what you're diagnosed with and when you were diagnosed?
I've been diagnosed with ASD. At the time I was diagnosed, it was called Aspergers. I don't think that's the term that's used anymore. Yeah, I know I still occasionally use it, but I think that it's it's not supposed to be used anymore. I was actually diagnosed quite early on, at least compared to what I hear from a lot of people. I was diagnosed at age 7, so
Okay.
so very early on. So the story goes that I was in primary school, so going from grade 1 to grade 2, and and what happened? And so I kind of had to move schools, wanted to move schools, and had to move schools for logistics reasons. And so what happened was when I was actually I wasn't 7. It was 2007, but I was 6, turning 7 at the time. So
Yep.
essentially what happened was I was went in for the an interview with the principal, and my mum was there as well. And from what I've been told, during the interview with the principal was there asking me, interviewing me, asking me questions. And I was told that what I was doing was walking around the office while the questions were going, like staring at things, um, looking at the plants in the office, the books. Principal like, so tell me what makes you want to come to this school? And I had my back, like looking around, and for almost the entire time. And so the principal suggested to my mum he might have, again at the time, Aspergers,
Yep.
and I don't know if there was any her parents at all suspected beforehand, but I do know that they were told probably around that time to get me diagnosed. So I did. I got diagnosed. So age 6, potentially if it was that little later, just at the start of age 7, and look, I diagnosed with Asperger's, which has gone on to be ASD, and that's essentially I've just had that diagnosis since then. It's something I don't think I actually was aware of the diagnosis until, again, still probably earlier on than a lot of other people get aware of their diagnosis. But I think it wasn't until maybe I was 10 or 11, maybe 12, when I was told. And it was actually funny. I do remember being told. The way I was told was we were watching a movie on Channel 11. They were doing a movie night, and the movie was Adam. I don't know if you've heard of Adam.
No, no.
No, it is. It's an actual movie about a guy who has Asperger's,
Okay.
and he was can't remember the actor who plays him, but yeah, he was like hyper obsessed with planets and space, and although he's hyper obsessed with that, what you did see in the film was those small little quirks that potentially did get him into trouble, or things that he didn't quite understand. That just which made you like laugh along, but also like feel for him as well. And I remember when
Yeah.
watching that movie, my mum told me, "You have not in this way, because this way can obviously be taken multiple ways, but in a way, she said you have what he has, like
Yep.
you have Asperger's." And so I think I might have been told a bit earlier, but I definitely know from that point is when I actually like knew. And it's not something I like was upset about, and it's something it's not never something I've ever been upset about. It's just more something that I've been in the back of my mind, like, okay, so there's a bit of a different thought pattern that goes through my head, or I remember things differently to a way maybe a neurotypical person does, or I hyperfixate on things, which even now in the early adult life has happened, and I have picked up on in conversations as well. But I don't think to the extent of when I was like in high school, especially. I do know that I do remember I'd always like, if I was like talking about, let's say, a holiday I went on. Uh, even early university. I remember my first year of university in 2018. I was talking about a trip to the US I did with my dad to celebrate the end of high school, and as soon as and I'd talk about every place, but then as soon as the conversation got off topic, I'd talk maybe for 2 minutes like about that. Be like, well, anyways, back to the trip. So after that, we went to and so there definitely has been and so there has been those stuff. I think in early adult life, I've sort of noticed it a bit more and been able to sort of
Self-aware.
yeah self aware. I've been able to catch
Yeah.
it. While obviously, yeah, in those especially early high school years, even though I was aware of it, there was still that I don't want to say disengagement, but you know what I mean. Sort of that barrier of well, the barrier of like of what I was doing, yeah, so to
Yeah, and I
speak.
think when you're small or younger, you don't have that life experience yet, and then as you're learning things as you go along, it's like, oh, okay, that's why I do that. And I mean, with my diagnosis being so late in life, I was 31 when I was diagnosed, 32.
Okay.
So it's a bit strange because you always knew you were different, and
Hmm.
but you weren't quite sure why or how, and so growing up not really having that knowledge, I don't know if it made me feel more alienated than I would have been had I known, or how I would have felt had I known as a child that I had autism. But yeah, definitely it's interesting talking to different people that have either been diagnosed as a child or have been diagnosed as an adult, and kind of seeing how late diagnosis versus early diagnosis affects the path, I suppose, in life. So it's definitely. I mean, you've obviously got a career and everything like that, and do you think that your diagnosis kind of steered you in a particular direction with that?
Yeah, so look, so obviously career being, yeah, so I'm going into teaching as a career.
Yep.
And the story with that goes that I was initially at uni studying film. Uh, I finished mid 2021 with that degree as an undergrad, and COVID time, so it was a bit hard to. I mean, it was always going to be hard to find a job in film.
Yep.
But COVID
Was
times,
passion,
obviously,
obviously. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, COVID times bumps that up just a little bit in terms of the difficulty. So, so my promise to myself was, okay, I'll go into teaching because that's always been sort of my second career choice. And I've always been encouraged. My parents have said, like, the way you explain things, the passion you have about certain things, your sympathy to other people would really make you a good teacher. And
Yep.
so that was always my second career choice. And so I started that. I did roughly start it a bit the beginning of last year, but I had to defer. There was a lot of reasons involved in that. But, yeah, catching COVID like before the census date was one of them. Just to the point I was, yeah, to the point I was just like, yeah, I think I've got to. I can't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it throws you
need
around.
to do that now. But I started my masters in it this year, and I was also a teacher aide as a job as well.
Yep.
I won't say the school name again, but just at a school in Brisbane,
Yep.
and
Do you still do that?
yeah, I still
Yeah,
do
while you're
that.
studying. Yep.
Yeah, while I'm studying.
Yep.
But obviously, so I do that, and then obviously I'm on studying for my teaching degree
Yeah.
as yeah as well. So it's that's sort of the career I'm leading. I'll be starting teaching if everything goes well, like from 2025 onwards.
Yep.
So I think that I've been quite happy with that because one of the things I am able to teach since I've done the degree in it is film.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I was like, my mindset with that is, oh, if you can't work in it, teach it. So
Yeah, and I find that a lot of people do that. They'll do
yeah,
a career choice and then go, okay, I can't get a job in that specific area, so then do a few more years for teaching, and then yeah, we'll literally teach what they've learned.
a lot of my friends who do the art subjects, I had a lot of friends who did drama. I teach it as well. I had even it's a lot of the art subjects that get sort of pushed to that. Most people are going to teach it because it's hard to get a job in it. But even
Yep.
like I have friends who I study with who do things like, who studied in undergrad, like some science or psychology or maths, and even there they've struggled to get jobs, and they've turned to teaching to actually teach it instead.
I see that a lot with history as well.
Yeah, yeah, history is on the
Yeah,
move.
everyone that studies history goes on to teach it, but I feel like it's kind of perfect. That kind of pathway into teaching is perfect for people with ASD because it's like they pick their passion, and then you wouldn't feel that kind of pressure to perform in front of people because it's a subject matter that you love and you know a lot about. So
Yeah,
it would just come naturally.
yeah, 100%. And I think yeah, I'm always big on. That's one of my hobbies. I love performing. I'm a big performing arts person. In Brisbane, I often do like community theatre shows where I can.
That's
Haven't done
cool.
any
Yeah.
recently. I've just been way too busy.
Yeah. It sounds like you got a lot on your plate.
but but that is one thing, and so I think yeah, I always see it as a bit of a like. Well, I'm told as well by other friends of mine who do like those sorts of performance things and do teaching, like it's just a performance.
Yeah.
So like it's one thing that is really good to like that really good backbone to have when up there and
And you
yeah.
can sorry, you can really put everything into your profession then because you want to be there, you're enjoying it. It's something that yeah you can hyper focus on kind of thing. Is the teaching? Are you looking to teach primary school years or high school years?
High school,
Yep.
yeah. I
Okay.
think
Yep.
everyone's either one or the other, and I'm the other. I'm high school.
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Were you working with children as an aide or older children? Like, were you in a primary school or high
oh,
school?
high school as well. Yeah,
High school. Okay.
high
Yep.
school.
Okay.
Of a like which in terms of like younger high school, older high school, a variety.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I just wondered if you were in the primary school years or the upper school years because that's interesting. I mainly have spoken to people that are in the primary school years, so there's definitely a very different perspective
mm,
on things if you're teaching young adults
mm.
or helping young adults.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's yeah, definitely yeah, and yeah, primary school. I think there's a lot more would be a lot more involved in like primary school teacher aiding as well. I haven't been in it, but I can just imagine. So
It's definitely, I think, different. It's obviously different stages of life, and a lot of kids that have disabilities. Um, in the early years, it's the more, I guess, informative years, but also they're trying to kind of find their way and find what they like and things like that. So I could imagine there would be a little bit more involved in that regard. But then, of course, you've got different hurdles for, puberty and things like that. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's that comes into it too.
Yeah, and I can imagine that would be a challenge in itself. So it's all the hormones are raging, and people trying to find their way.
Yeah, yeah, it's that all definitely is factors into it. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
from
But I
experience,
imagine it's a very rewarding
yeah,
job as well.
it is actually. I love it. I love it. It's there are days where it can be a bit more of a just a, like a bit of a struggle with like that student, but in the end, like I love it. It's such a yeah, rewarding job, and I think taking sort of my experience when I was younger and in high school and stuff like that, and look, no one with ASD is the same. Uh,
Yeah,
and ASD is not the same as like every other single um, like learning support factor, but it's definitely something like I love sort of taking the okay what would I have needed in that situation and what how can I modify it or how can I modify it or adapt it for this student.
do you feel like a lot of aides are on the spectrum themselves? Because I kind of get that vibe from people that work in that area. A lot of them have their own diagnosis of some description, and I almost feel like that's a benefit because, as you say, you can relate and things like that.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Look, I'd love to say yes. Again, well, one of the main things with me is like and we know you can't always tell if someone is on the
No,
set.
no.
So sometimes there's really good masking and all that sort of stuff. Um,
Especially in a
from,
professional field, like in
yeah,
a professional environment.
from my experience, at face value, I'd have to say no, just for the ones I've sort of hung out with. Again, that doesn't mean that, but just from at face value, I'd say no. A lot of them are actually more parents themselves,
Yeah.
um, parents themselves, or people like me who are studying to do teaching as well.
Yeah.
Um, that's been my experience with sort of at different aides. I there's again, it doesn't mean that I haven't, but there's not a. Oh, actually, no. I think there's been a couple of aides who I've been friends with who I think are on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But at face value for the majority, I find the majority are parents or again students like me who are studying to go on teaching. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I think too, in that environment, everything's very normalized as well. Like it's, in certain environments, it sticks out a lot more if you're different. But then in environments where everyone's kind of different, everyone just kind of blends in too. Like it's, which I love. Like it's definitely, I feel, um, those kinds of environments are a lot more supportive of just everybody in general, and that's obviously very important. But I find that when I meet people, I can usually tell straight away if they're on the spectrum or not, but I can't tell straight away if they're not. And I often will say, okay, well, if I can't tell if they're not, then they probably aren't. Like it's a
yeah,
very weird kind of, yeah. I mean, all of my friends are definitely, either ASD or ADHD or both. And it's kind of funny because as we've gone through life together, one's gotten diagnosed and then the next one's gotten diagnosed, and it's kind of like pushed one another to get assessed. And like my best friend, I met her through my son's original school, and she started learning a little bit about my son, and then she was kind of like, "Oh, do you think my kids?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then from there, before long, I was diagnosed, she was diagnosed, and we're just sitting around diagnosing everybody. But yeah, I mean, even one of my brothers, as soon as I learned about what autism was for my son, I've just gone, oh, okay, yeah, one of my brothers is a little bit like that. And he's not diagnosed, but when I explained to him what autism was, he was like, that sounds like me. And I was like, yeah, that kind of is you. But since he started, he's now, he just turned 21. So he's in university now, as far as I know, and he's studying music. So he's just been studying music pretty much the whole way through because it's a passion of his. He's really good at piano, does a lot of performing as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if he eventually branched out and did what you're doing with the whole teaching thing and
yeah,
going on to teach what he loves. But yeah, he's got all of his friends are on the spectrum. Like they're all very quirky and different. But I just love that you can, I don't know, go through life and not really have your people, and then all of a sudden they just all pop up at once.
yeah.
Do you have a lot of friends that are very similar, or you've gone through similar things with?
Um, definitely for definitely now I do.
Yeah,
Throughout, like let's say primary school, I would say no, not at all. And like looking back, that was definitely noticeable because there was a noticeable difference.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, and that's just upon reflection. There's definitely like noticeable differences. And it was in primary school was a bit of a struggle, like not a major struggle,
yeah.
but it was obviously a bit of a struggle. I mean, it didn't. I mean, grade 7, like there were 4 boys in my grade, including me. So, and
Okay.
that's the grade where you sort of have that guys group versus girls group.
Yep.
Uh, the guys don't want to hang in the girls group. You want to, but obviously 4 boys, including me, and the 3 others were sporty, and I was very artsy and stuff. So
Yep.
that didn't always go as smoothly as I would have liked. But again, that's in the past. High school to an extent, yeah, a couple, and then outside of high school, definitely, yeah, quite a few. But outside of high school, like I've got like outside of high school is in after high school, post life now. I had a
Yep.
whole wider range. Like high school, you generally have maybe your friends in high school, and then a couple who you might do a curricular activity outside. Here,
Yep.
I've got my work friends, I got my previous work friends, I got ones who I do forming with, I got ones who I'm at uni with, and definitely, and those ones who definitely aren't on the spectrum are also very understanding. I think that is the difference. You do find that there's in the high school years, I actually did find that there was a bit of an understanding in it. It was
Yep.
primary school I found that there wasn't, but high school there was. But then obviously out now in the real world, I find there is a understanding and a bit more of an acceptance for it, at least in the groups that I'm in, uh,
Yep.
which is good. And look, I most of the time like it's to the point where sometimes I do forget that I'm on the spectrum because we all hang out. We're all like all us with different sort of abilities, different mindsets, different backgrounds. We all just hang out and like have a good time. And so because of that, I think the best thing is when you do forget you're on the spectrum, not in a bad way, but just
Yeah.
it just shows that the people you're hanging out with are sort of just treating you just like you're a friend, you're one of them, and yeah, and that's probably and I think that that is the if you forget for a time or it sort of goes away for a time that like you are
Yeah.
or there is something a bit different, then that's the best thing I
It's
find.
not like,
It shows you're in a good group of friends.
yeah, and
Yeah,
you're no longer defined by,
yeah,
the fact that you are. And that's the way it should be for everybody. Everybody should just be embraced and supported and loved for them, just their personality and who they are and what they love to do. And I think a lot of the time stuff isn't as forgivable when you're younger because there's a lot of
mm,
people are always looking for a reason why you're doing something, and it's
yeah,
almost always behavioral, like that child is naughty. Whereas when you get to high school and you still haven't been able to change your ways, so to speak, people start going, oh, okay, maybe there's something more to that. And so yeah, there's definitely
yeah.
more awareness the older you get.
Yeah, I think it's also been like, I mean, look, I'm relatively young. I finished up primary school, grade seven was still part of primary school, and I finished up 2012. So look, I'm relatively young. That's not that long ago. But
Yep.
I think it has been like as the years have gone on, there has been that bit more of a, yeah, awareness and that type of thing. I think, and again, like I think the population of, let's say, schools as well. Again, there's a lot more people when I went to high school, and that's really, I think that meant there was more people who had that. I mean, again, another thing might not just be the ASD. It might actually be like the interest and the fact that I'm much more an artsy person than a sporty person. And then in high school, you had more people who were not more people who were artsy, still definitely the majority sporty, but more boys who were that little bit more on
Yeah.
that performing arts side. And yeah, so that's what and so I think that that's probably one of the one of the things. And then again, outside of high school into adult life, um, because then you're an adult, you can kind of seek it out a bit more. You can actually go to, let's say, a performing arts show or join a theatre company, and then you get to meet people,
Yeah.
uh, essentially who are like that, who yeah, I mean, who would I hope would be like that if they were at the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
um,
that's just it though. You're getting that more independence, you're going out
mm,
into the world and you're getting more life experience. And I find that it's usually in your 20s when you start to meet people that become potential lifelong friends. A lot of people, like
yeah,
even I've got a lot of siblings. I'm the eldest of 9, so I've got a sister who's at the bottom of the group, and then I'm the eldest, and then we've got 7 brothers in the middle. Um, so it's I just find like watching them go through things and stuff like that, they'll often say to me, oh, I never want to move away from where I live because I have all these friends. I'm like, yeah, you have friends, but you once you hit your 20s you go in different directions, and you might keep a few, but
yeah.
yeah.
I actually did find that because um I have no, oh, I don't say I have no contact. Like again, it's the digital age. We still have Facebook, I guess. Like still friends
Yeah.
with Facebook, but I none of the friends who I went to high school with, I don't think I've hung out with in the last 3, 4 years.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think. I think maybe one or two at uni might have popped up. Might have gone for like a guide to year occasionally, but other than that, yeah, no one. At least in my grade, I think I did work with someone who was in a different grade to me, not too long
Yep.
ago. But again, in terms of like hang out friendship wise, yeah, definitely not. I think yeah, the friends who I met, I don't even think from my first because I went to a different uni when I first started uni to
Yep. Yep.
then when I continued. And I think, yeah, not even from first year of uni, I think it was from second year of uni onwards where I've actually gotten the friends who I've more like, still go, hey, I'm just having a get together. You want to come along? Just like a
Yeah.
quiet night to, yeah, have, some drinks and talk and just have a bit of music and, yeah,
I guess when you're going through primary school and stuff, it's a very sheltered environment. Like you literally go from home to school and then back again. So that's
yeah.
just that they're the only people you get to really meet. But then as you hit your 20s and stuff, and you branch out and you start going out into the world, yeah, you start meeting people through work or extra, curricular things.
Yeah, and obviously there is the like occasional outside of school activities
Yeah,
when,
yeah,
and I think that is something where I've managed to sort of build those social skills. So I know that my mum used to say that mum used to try to get me involved in well, not everything, not push everything on me, but just try to get me involved in quite a few things. Because mum works in education as well, and
yep,
I think she sort of also knew that there are some kids obviously who aren't diagnosed the exact same as me, but because of that, are kind of sheltered that bit more to
yep,
protect them, and because of that, they don't get to build those social skills. Which means by the time they get into high school and then outside school, they're a bit. I don't want to say it don't always turn out antisocial. I'm not saying that isn't a bad thing either,
yeah,
but
like
it's
reserved.
reserved, and that's sort of what happened. So my parents really wanted to get me involved in like soccer when I was a kid.
Yep.
Involved in again, just for a couple of years. Again, not sporty. I remember hearing stories about how my, it's quite funny. My mum would coach,
Yep.
and I would like obviously coach the games that I'm playing. But again, me and my ASD, what would happen is like I'd see, let's say, a butterfly on the field, and I'd just stop in the middle of the field, and mum would always tell me like all the people like get that kid off the field. We don't want him on the team. The one's just sitting there, the coach, like, okay, what do I do in this situation? I don't
Just
know.
doing your own thing.
I think I can kick him off the field. And so I think a lot of the social skills that I've built, because like I'm very like I think I'm very social.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like I said, I've got like quite a few friends groups. I'm very social. Again, still got those ASD quirks, but I can catch them a bit more now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I was sort of, again, don't want to say pushed, but sort of nudged out there to do some co-curricular activities as a
Yep.
as a kid, and then that built off like um, did a bit of like drama classes then in late primary school, early high school, got me into let's say things like the school musical and school
Yep.
bands and other stuff like that, and then that's really sort of uh, it's really sort of helped build social skills. I think that's why sort of I might be a bit more as social as I am today,
Mm.
and I think
Yep.
that's and it's really and like I said, despite those like sort of ASD quirks, like in my young adult life, I've been able to sort of catch them a bit
Yep.
because of that. Like I make a joke with one group of friends, and I make a joke with one group of friends, and it might not fly. Like it might just get missed. As a teenager or as a sort of like 12-year-old or 13-year-old, would probably be like, oh, okay, like I'd sit on it for days. Like, oh, okay. I thought that. Well, now I can kind of go, oh, okay. Wait, don't try that with the next friend group then. Yeah, I
I'm a bit
might
like that.
sit on it for days if it's something that came out wrong and offended the friend, and might sit on it for days like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
but the majority just like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe don't say that.
Yeah, my best friend's like that. She's like, no, that is too far. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it yeah, but again, a lot of it like if you're in the right friends group, and I've found that and I've and they've always been quite open with me about it. I've been quite open with them about it and
Yeah.
really discuss again, even my other friends on the spectrum generally can freely discuss sort of what they yeah
Yeah,
what they
and I've spoken to some people that are like, oh, I don't tell people because I don't want people to know. But then I've also spoken to a lot of people like, oh no, I'm very transparent. I talk about it because then at least I've got a better chance of people understanding why I do
yeah.
certain things, or picking up on when I might not be coping very well and why that might be.
Hmm.
So I
Uh,
think,
yeah.
yeah,
I, I I I let it slip out in conversation. I mean, it's not something I parade over my head.
yes,
I
yeah,
just like which for people who do that, there's nothing wrong with that either.
yeah,
But yeah, I sort of like let it slip into like conversation. If I'm close friends, I'll sort of like uh, let it out. Or but yeah, it's not something like even for like yeah when I go and do stuff, and if it's a question like like on a form or something, I generally like for applying for like a part-time job or something, I generally won't
yeah,
put it on there because in most cases I feel like um, that sort of I feel like although it might be for adjustment stuff, I feel like I've got a stage where for the most part I don't need too many adjustments. I feel like I've got that
yeah,
sort of that hold on that hold on. I know how to kind of maintain and handle
yeah.
um,
Operate in
and,
those,
and operate.
environments. Yeah, yeah,
Even though, and again, like I said, there's still times where like the majority of times in young adult life, I've found that I might just need something just said another way or said a second time. Like I remember I was working. Uh, I'll I'll say this workplace because there's multiple of them around. I used to be a Kmart boy.
okay, yep, yep,
First, I was actually there for the majority for about 7 years. So
yep,
yeah, like I think grade 10 to like I don't know, I think last year or the year before, so it was a long time. And yeah, like one of my managers said, "Can you just condense those items on the shelf?" And he walked off, and I was like, "He wants me to do what with the items on the shelf?" He expects like, "Why haven't you condensed it?" I'm like, "Please, what do you mean by condensed? Can you just like,
yeah. Just a little more information, please.
just like put them together like that?" I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yep.
I mean, I had a bit of an idea because again, I related sort of like condensed condensed milk. It was like sort of what he means condensed, but like again,
Yep.
that was me at like 17, 18. So I mean, like
Yep.
I'm 23 now. So it's
Yep.
so I definitely know what someone means when they say condensed now. But obviously, yeah, still just it's just those minor things or those I don't want to say illiteral words, illiteral, if that's even a word, like, things that aren't literal.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep. The abstract.
the abstract, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But in most cases now, like, I can catch those sorts of things. In most cases, all I'd need is just maybe a reiteration of what it is, or maybe just, I might call another item a different thing. Uh,
Yep.
like, I can't think of an item at the moment, but you know what I mean. Like it might be an object which I might have grown up with a different name for, um,
Yep.
and yeah, so it's yeah, and so that's a lot. That's mainly the stuff for me in my young adult life. It's nothing that I don't think my ASD has been a point where it sort of impacted me on the daily.
Yep.
Um,
It sounds like though
yeah,
that's thanks to your parents a lot, because it sounds
very
like they really, yeah, they were advocating from the get go and trying to kind of push you past your comfort zone, but they knew where your threshold was. Like,
yeah,
so
no,
that's amazing. If everyone had parents like that,
it did a
we'd be
good job.
doing a lot better. Yeah, that's awesome. Shout out to your parents. But
Definitely,
just to wrap it up, if somebody thought they were on the spectrum or had a disability but they weren't diagnosed, what would you say to them as advice?
Look, I would. if you can, if you, it really depends on like how on how much you wanted to know. I mean, I am aware that I think it does take a while to get diagnosed. I could be wrong. I was only diagnosed at age 7, diagnosed
Yeah.
at 7. So obviously, I'm unaware with like the length of time or the cost or anything. I do know that yeah, someone very close to my life also does have ADHD and ASD, and I think I think she's undiagnosed, and because of the and I think one of the reasons is because the cost and the length of time it takes. Um, I'm not saying that in a way to defer someone from being diagnosed. I would
No,
say
no.
do it. I would say yeah, if you really want, it's definitely something good to do just for that certainty. But at the end of the day, I think if you've got like the right group of friends
Yeah.
and stuff like that, generally it wouldn't matter. I have friends who or say claim to be on the spectrum who are undiagnosed. Yeah, and most of the time, like we don't like push back against that. Like, oh, well, you're not
Yeah.
diagnosed, so like we accept it because I think yeah, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's despite maybe a couple of things like have to explain something another way or have to um, sort of stagger or be a bit slow with the instructions. At the end of the day, it's just for most cases, it's just another way of thinking, and it's
Yeah.
another
I mean, it's just who you are, isn't it? And
yeah,
what you
it's just
do.
another way
And
of thinking. It's just a more extravagant personality or more I don't know if
we're
the
just cooler.
right word like or minimalist person. No, I don't want to say that. Like you know what I mean. Like more
Yeah.
sense.
It's not as condensed. It's,
Yeah.
it's,
um,
yeah.
but
There's more like layers.
yeah, it's just more an extreme personality. I like to think. And as long
Yeah.
as you're in the right friends group and stuff, then generally you should be good.
Yeah.
My
Awesome.
experience anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming in and having a chat to me. It's been absolutely awesome chatting to you and meeting you.
Yes, yeah, no, I've loved it. Thank you so much, Jamie. It's been fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, you have a good day.
Bye.
See ya.
You too. Bye.